All right, can everybody see my screen? Okay, good, good. I can see a couple of your faces and I saw some heads shaking, so that's good. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, my name is Kelly Greer. I'm the Director of Admissions. I'm also an alum of Loyola Law School. I graduated back in 2006. So I can definitely speak to you all from a student perspective, as well as now an alumni perspective. And then I'm also part of the administration currently. So currently in our JD program in the entering class, this past entering class for fall 2020, we brought in 279 day students and 47 part-time evening students. So we have a full-time day program that is a 3-year full-time program. It's broken down into 4 sections. Each of those sections have about 65 to 70 students in them, and you stay with that entire section your whole first year. So you take all your classes with that section, and it really begins to feel like a family. I definitely remember it to be that way. You either get a morning schedule or you get an afternoon schedule. So if you get a morning schedule, most of your classes will be from 8 till 12. And if you get an afternoon schedule, your classes will be between 1 till 5, and that's Monday through Friday. For our part-time evening program, that program is a 4-year program, and most of the classes are in the evening, Monday through Thursday, between the hours of 6 and 10 p.m. At this point, most students, well, currently we are in a virtual format, but when we are actually operating, on campus, students come in about 2 nights a week, and then the rest of their coursework occurs online. So that is definitely a very flexible program for students who plan to work while going to school. And most of the students that are in the evening program do have full-time jobs and then are coming to school at night. We also have the JD MBA. That's a 4-year program shared between the law school and the Westchester campus, where students come in during the first year and they take their first year of law school. The second year, they go to the business school. And then the third and fourth year, they come back to the law school to finish the program. We also have a JD Tax LLM, which can be a 3-year program if students identify that this is what they want to do by their spring semester of first year. Then they would just do an intensive over the summer and be able to complete that program within 3 years. And then we also have some other master's programs like the Master's of Legal Studies and the LLM Domestic or International. But like you all said, you are here for the JD. And a couple of tidbits also about our school. So currently I have the Westchester campus behind me in my virtual background, but please note that the law school campus is on a separate campus than the Westchester campus. So we are located in downtown Los Angeles. We are, our closest intersection, I guess you could say, is Vermont and Olympic. And we are, very close to downtown. I would say 2 blocks off of, the Staples Center and the Convention Center and all that type of thing. We are the closest LA Law School to all the courthouses, all the major law firms, the public interest corridor. We're very close to 9th Street, and on 8th Street, you'll find the ACLU, Legal Aid of LA, Public Counsel. So we are in the heart of the legal market. With regard to academics, during your first year, you have 7 required courses. So you will take, and these are pretty standard for all ABA accredited law schools. So you'll take the standard torts, contracts, civil procedure, criminal law, property, legal writing and research. And then during your second semester, you have an opportunity to take 1 elective class. So on the left side of the screen, the ones in blue, Intro to Immigration Law, Intro to Income Taxation, Intro to International Law, or Intro to Innovation Law. those are the elective opportunities that you can decide to take in the spring of your first year. After that, we have 11 concentrations of study that you can choose from. So law school is a bit different from undergrad in that in law school, you do have to, in undergrad, you have to declare a major. So everybody, by the time they graduate, they actually have to have a major in something. In law school, at the end of the day, you never have to declare a concentration. You can graduate with a Juris Doctor degree and never declare any specialty. But we do have 11 concentrations of study. And I would say about half of our students are interested in taking on a concentration, declaring it through our registrar's office. The other half just decide to take classes from all the different disciplines, things that interest them, and that's more than fine too. And then a very small percentage of our students actually take on 2 concentrations by the time they graduate. So some of our concentrations that are more popular include public interest law, tax law, business, corporate law, entertainment law, criminal law is very big, international law. So these are areas that are, very popular on the campus, but we also have, cybersecurity and data privacy law, immigration law. We have all sorts of things that you can choose to study at Loyola. And then we even have smaller tracks of study. So if you do not study from a concentration, things like health law or environmental law, we actually have curriculum that you can take from too. With regard to our community, I would say this is one of my favorite parts of the law school, is that our community is very bustling. As I mentioned earlier, we're separate from the main campus. And so everybody that is on our campus is there for the purpose of studying law and learning more about the law. Our campus has about 7 or 8 buildings. So we're a small campus and it's all enclosed, but everybody kind of knows everybody else's face. We have about 1,000 students total on the campus. So it makes for a really nice community. And we have about 40 to 45 different clubs and organizations on campus. Our students are very active and really do like hands-on learning. And that's something that we're big in at Loyola, is carrying on in a practice-driven approach, which I'll speak more about soon. So definitely our students, take on organizations. We have organizations that are more concentration-based, like our Entertainment and Sports Law Society or our Business Law Society. We have organizations that are ethnicity-based, like Black Law Students Association, La Raza de Loyola, Asian Pacific Islander Law Students Association, Southeast Asian Law Students Association. So there's many of those. We also have religious-based ones, and then we just have fun ones as well. We have one, the Wine and Spirits Law Society, and they kind of go to wineries and do wine tastings and all that kind of thing. So our students are really, really active, really social. On top of them being, a real intellectual bunch, they also really do believe in community. And another thing that I would say that's great in particular about our first year is that we have a first year mentoring program that is alumni based. So during like the first week that you're in law school, we contact every 1L student and ask them if they would like an alumni mentor. And any student that says they would like one, we match them to an alum, and that alum will stay with them the entire first year. You usually get together with your alum for coffee, phone chats, that type of thing, and your alum will kind of walk you through, various opportunities, talk about your future and, how to get to where you want to go, as well as, help you with outlining, briefing, that type of thing. I had an amazing alumni mentor, and I met with her every other week for coffee, and we talked strategy and concepts and all that kind of thing. So that was really helpful. Also know of those 40 to 45 different student groups and organizations that I spoke of earlier. Many of them have first year mentoring programs as well. So You can always take advantage of those where an upperclassman will mentor you for the entire first year. Similarly, we have a great academic success department that is made up of a handful of tenured faculty who work with, 1Ls as well as anybody else, 2Ls or 3Ls who may be struggling a bit. They put on various workshops so students can, get that help with outlining, briefing, all that type of thing. And really, make individualized plans so that people can really succeed while they're at the law school. And we even have first generation programs. We know that about 40% of our class that comes into law school does not, they'll be the first lawyer in their family and they don't have any connections to other lawyers. And so we put on quite a bit of first generation programming, starting at the orientation with a first generation orientation, so that students can, make those connections, educate their families as to, the responsibilities and duties that they're going to be, required to do throughout their time that they're in law school. So we really help with that as well. Okay. So practice, practice, practice. So as I mentioned earlier, we are definitely a school that is known for our practice-driven approach. And so with that, we have hundreds of externship opportunities available to our students. And so you can do your first externship the summer after your first year. In any given semester, we have 150 students out in externship placements. So this is very popular for our students. And it's a really good opportunity for them to learn right under an attorney, work on actual cases, memos, motions, that type of thing. So our students do judicial externships where they go to a state court judge or a federal court judge and get to learn and maybe write memos and motions right under a judge, or they go to the DA's office or public defender's office, or some of them might go to a nonprofit like the Public Interest Corridor that I was mentioning earlier. So they might go to the ACLU or Legal Aid of LA and get to actually work on cases with clients under the supervision of an attorney. We also have private law firm placements as well. So for some areas of law, like the corporate sector, it might be best to go to a private law firm that's actually working on mergers and acquisitions or something like that, and actually get that hands-on experience as a law student. So we definitely have those opportunities as well. We have 14 practica, and a practicum is a year-long course that a student would enter into. The first semester, they would study under one of our tenured faculty in that particular area of law. And then the second semester, they go out into the field and be able to learn more about that area by working on actual cases in that area. So an example of one of our practicum is the civil rights law practicum. The first semester, students study under Professor Gary Williams. And then the second semester, they would go to an ACLU or a law firm, private law firm, or even a nonprofit that practices in the area of civil rights. Lastly, but definitely not least, we also have a social justice lawyering clinic. And this social justice lawyering clinic houses 21 different live client clinics. And so that's a list of some of the clinics. But some of our more popular clinics include Loyola's Project for the Innocent. That clinic has definitely been in the news more recently. In the last couple of years, we have had 12 clients exonerated of all charges based upon their innocence. And these are clients who have spent 20 years, 30 years, some even more than 30 years in prison for crimes that they did not commit. And so it's our students coupled with our faculty who have done investigations, appeared in court and hearings and so forth, and been able to get these clients exonerated of their charges and out of prison. So that's a really popular clinic. I would also say our Loyola Immigrant Justice Clinic is very popular. That clinic has put on free DACA renewal workshops in the community. They've also done all sorts of cases, asylum cases, and so forth. They have about 4 or 5 staff attorneys available. And so the students that work in that clinic work a whole year on cases from start to finish. We have everything else from low income tax clinics to landlord tenant clinics, employment rights clinics, even a fashion law clinic and an international human rights clinic. So all of our clinics, they operate on campus, the clients come to campus, and our students get to work on those cases right alongside the lawyers and get that practice-driven approach. So I would say based on these practical opportunities, our greatest feedback from employers is that our students are able to hit the ground running. We hear that time and time again, that our Loyola students are prepared once it is time for them to go out and practice. And that's because they have had so many opportunities to actually work on cases, not just think about it from a theoretical standpoint, but actually work on it from day to day. So where will you work if you graduate from Loyola? So we polled our last class 2019. So for the class of 2020, they just recently took the bar earlier this month. So it'll be another couple months until we have those statistics. But for the class of 2019, their career placement rate was 87.5%, and their bar passage rate was 80%. I would say that is unique in that typically law schools' career placement rate is below their bar passage rate. Usually they only can employ up to how many people have passed the bar. But for us, I feel like our reputation is such that students, they're able to get jobs, and even if they're not passing the bar on the first time, the job is, willing to keep them on a bit until they are able to get past the bar and be able to practice. So we definitely have a high career placement rate. And then on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see the breakdown of where our students have gone. So for the most part, I would say most students go to mid-sized firms or small firms after graduating from Loyola. Probably 5–10% do go on to the major international law firms. But for the most part, our students go to mid-sized firms after graduation. And then those are a couple of other sectors of where our students go. So what makes Loyola Law School different? I would definitely say one thing that's really good about us is our career development office. So as I mentioned before, we have a staff of about 8 or 9 counselors in the career development office who most of them have practiced law at one point. And so by October 15th of the first year, that's the date that the ABA sets that the Career Development Office is then allowed to reach out to a first-year student regarding career placement. So after that date, Career Development reaches out to first years and introduces themselves as an assigned counselor. So every first year will get an assigned counselor in the Career Development Office and has to have a meeting with that assigned counselor. And in that meeting, the counselor will talk to them about their goals, short-term, long-term, as well as start to work with them on their resume, as well as their cover letter, that type of thing, so that the student can start getting ready for their first summer and any opportunities after the first year. So that department really does great. I mean, in one, you see it in the placement rate, but as well as feedback that I get from students. I mean, they do everything from mock interviews. Sometimes they bring alums in from the firms that students are working at to do mock interviews and so forth. So they also put on brown bag lunches with alumni to let students meet alums who are working in particular fields and get more information about how they can get to that place and what channel they should take to get to where the alum is. Another thing that makes us stand apart is our alumni network. So we have over 19,000 living alumni. This year is our centennial year, so we have been around 100 years. And we are heavily saturated throughout California, particularly Southern California, but I would say California as a whole. We have more judges in California than any other California school are graduates of Loyola Law School. We have more than 1,000 partners at major law firms throughout the country are graduates of Loyola Law School as well. We are first in district attorneys in the LA County office. We toggle between being first or second for the Orange County DA's office. So we are really in the business of creating attorneys and attorneys who practice and so forth. And you will really see us everywhere. So I'm sure you have questions with regard to the application process. So I am going to I'm going to talk about the various components of the application process next. So with regard to the application file, there is a CAS report. So basically, the Law School Admissions Council, some of you have probably heard of that, LSAC. They are responsible for administering the LSAT, as well as that is where you will go to apply to all of the law schools that you plan to apply to. And then they disseminate the application to the various schools that you apply to in an electronic format so that we're able to read your application as well. They put together a CAS report for each applicant who applies to the law school. So in the CAS report, we will see things like your LSAT score, we will see your letters of recommendation, your transcript from undergrad, that type of thing. So it's all of the quantitative components. If you have graduate school transcripts, they're optional, but recommended that you put in there as well. And then there is also the application packet. And just so you know, because we don't talk about it much later in this presentation, but if you have questions, that's fine, we can discuss. We also do take the GRE. So the CAS report will not have your GRE score, but if you prefer to take the GRE over the LSAT, we will take that into account. But if students have taken both, we will review the LSAT score over the GRE. So please note that. With regard to the application, in the application, there will be the personal statement and the resume, an opportunity for a student to submit an addendum, and any other optional statements, like maybe a diversity statement or a public interest law statement as well. So I'm going to break down each of these in the next couple of slides. So with regard to the LSAT, a couple of things to know. Currently, the LSAT is being administered as an LSAT Flex, which is an online exam. So obviously, in this current time that we're in, people are not needing to take the LSAT in person, but it's an online test that students can take from home, 3 35-minute sections and an LSAT writing sample. The LSAT writing sample is available to students 8 days before the student takes the LSAT, and it's required that students complete the writing sample before they will release the CAS report to all of the schools that the student applies to. There is an opportunity for a score preview for first-time LSAT test takers. So there is a fee charged through LSAC for this, but you may want to take advantage of the score preview just to make sure you got a good score before sending out your score with your CAS report. And then testing limits, please note that you can only take the LSAT 3 times in a year, or 5 times in 5 years, or 7 times throughout your lifetime. So one mistake that I regularly see in the admissions process is that a lot of people say, I'm just going to go in and sit for the LSAT and see how I do. And, if I don't do fine, then from there, I'll look into taking a class or something like that. That is not the best idea just because of these testing limitations. You can only take it 3 times in a year, 5 times in a 5-year period. So, every opportunity to be able to take this exam should be under the best circumstances so that you can actually get the best score possible. So definitely prepare, take practice exams, all that type of thing before you actually go into this exam. As mentioned earlier, the LSAT writing sample opens 8 days before the LSAT, and you have to have completed the LSAT writing exam before they will complete your CAS to be able to send your application out to various law schools. So with regard to grades, these are other things that we're going to look at and, view your grades in the context of these various fields. So if, you worked on campus or off campus, you're going to want to mention that at some point in your application, maybe in your resume, so that we're viewing your grades in context. We also want, to see what community involvement you've had or extracurriculars. For us, we definitely want an active student on our campus, somebody that's going to take part in some of the many opportunities that we are providing at our law school. And so, a good way to show us that you have already done this and that you will continue doing this is having, maybe taken on an extracurricular or 2 while you're in undergrad. But also the good thing, it's always about balance. You don't want to overcommit yourself, right? Because grades are important too. So striking that balance is probably best. So with regard to the application, our e-app, the fee has been waived for our e-app through December 31st. So if you're planning to apply for fall 2021, definitely apply by December 31st through LSAC, and our application fee has been waived. This is the first page of our application, and so there's just a couple of things to note. We do ask if you're a re-applicant or if you're a first-time applicant. If you're a re-applicant, there's some nuances. I would just say the admissions committee does view your old file and your new file side by side. So make sure to update your personal statement, your resume, all those types of things, and maybe, consider retaking the LSAT so that you have new information to present the admissions committee. Also, note what type of application it is. We do have an early decision deadline, which is December 1st. And so if you're applying early decision, you would want to note that there. Otherwise, you would be in the regular decision program. For early decision apps, you would submit by December 1st, and that includes the latest LSAT you can take is the November LSAT. And then from there, we will have your decision out to you by December 31st. The regular decision process, we opened applications September 1st, and the priority deadline for full-time day is February 1st. Priority deadline for part-time evening is April 15th. And then also, note your division preference and if you plan to sit for a future LSAT. If you do plan to sit for a future LSAT, note that your file will be marked as incomplete in our system until that future score comes into our database. So we are evaluating applicants based on all of their scores, not just the one score that's in. So your file will not be seen as complete until all LSAT scores are available. Something else to note on our application is the character and fitness section. So note that for character and fitness, basically there is, with the bar exam, it is not just a substantive exam that tests, the things that you were learning while you were in law school, but it's also the moral character portion, which is testing ethics and how honest you have been and that type of thing. Because taking on the legal profession, you definitely have to be ethical in all that you do. And so some of these questions that we're asking on the application are with regard to if you've ever been on academic probation, if you've ever been disciplined by an employer or disciplined by a school, or if you've ever been convicted of a misdemeanor or felony. Sometimes applicants do have to check yes to these questions. And when they do, it's necessary that you also submit an addendum explaining and giving all the facts surrounding why you're answering yes to that question. Once an applicant gets closer, so they've been admitted to law school and they're about in their third year of law school and they start applying to take the bar exam, the bar is going to contact the admissions office and request their application. And they will review that application to make sure that everything was honest and truthful and so forth from the outset. So it's very important that you answer these questions honestly and always err on the side of giving more information than less information, or checking in with the admissions office if you're unsure as to if you need to give the information or not, because these are very important questions, and your licensing for the bar can be held up if you don't answer these questions honestly and accurately. So with regard to the personal statement, we always have students asking us, how can I set myself apart in the application process or that type of thing? I would always say for the personal statement, an applicant should see it as an interview with the admissions committee. So there is no other component of the application where a student gets or where an applicant gets to speak directly to the admissions office and to the admissions committee. This is all the other components are secondary components, like the letters of recommendation, where we hear what other people think of the applicant, or the transcript where we're trying to gain more information about the applicant. But the personal statement is the one time that the applicant can speak directly to the admissions committee and tell us what is important to them, what their background is, why they want to go to law school, how they will fit in our community, how they plan to be a part of our student body. We're really trying to know who we would be bringing onto our campus and how they would interact in our community. And so while our personal statement is open-ended, we don't have a call or anything for our personal statement, we really are trying to get insight into who this particular applicant is. So the personal statement should absolutely be personal. It should be authentic. It should be genuine. It should really give us, truth or insight into who the applicant is. And so, sometimes people like to write about a mentor and tell us all about, a mentor that's really impacted them and set them on this path, or they like to talk about an internship that really sparked their interest into the law, but they spend a ton of time, a page and a half, 2 pages on the internship or on the mentor, and in the end leave about a paragraph about themselves. And so that, I always say is you've missed the exercise. You haven't helped us really get a good sense of who you are. This should really be personal. I can't stress it enough. So these are some of the don'ts of the personal statement process. I would say, one of the biggest don'ts is not to restate your resume. A lot of times students like to just kind of start listing what their opportunities have been and where they started working and all that kind of thing. We're not trying to see that in the personal statement. That should go to the resume, which is recommended for applicants to submit. Don't be sloppy. Sometimes a common thing is people will write one personal statement and send it to all of the schools they're applying to, but maybe they only put our law school name on the personal statement and they on accident send that out to 10 other schools. We get statements and sometimes it says some other law school and I want to come to X law school, but it's not Loyola, so don't be sloppy. Definitely look at, and proofread and all that kind of thing, the statement. It should be grammatically correct. And it doesn't have to be cliche. We can always tell when students have used one of those personal statement websites and started with a certain type of quote or something like that. This is really an opportunity to just be authentic and tell us who you are, and what you would bring to the campus. So other statements, as I mentioned earlier, you can submit a diversity statement. You could also submit a public interest statement, but you do not have to submit other statements. So how I compare the application is, I've heard a colleague before compare the application to like a piece of real estate. And I like the analogy in that a piece of real estate increases its value when you start to put different components onto the real estate that are going to make the real estate increase. So you're not going to continuously add a dining room over and over again to a piece of land. Like maybe a dining room and a breakfast nook, okay, maybe that's going to increase the value. But if you keep putting a dining room in the same, it's not going to increase the value. Maybe you're going to want to add a pool. Maybe you're going to want to make a nice kitchen. These things are going to increase the value. And so that is how you should see your application. Each component should not repeat another component. So a lot of times people will talk about one thing in their personal statement and then add a diversity statement, and you can tell they were unsure as to what to submit in their diversity statement. So they basically just repeat their personal statement. That's not a good, you shouldn't, you should be very clear and concise in the application process. And if you're just repeating the same thing, you're going to bog down your reader. You should not be submitting a diversity statement in that instance. You really should have something new to add, another facet that you want to show the admissions committee about yourself, another example of a writing sample for them. Each component of the application should be an additional way that we can see you and say, oh, this is another confirming factor that this student will be a great law student at Loyola. So only if you for sure have something that you think sets you apart and that you would want to add, that would be time to add a diversity statement. And then the public interest statement that I mentioned, we do merit-based scholarships for the entering class. And so if you are looking into getting a public interest merit-based scholarship, we would want you to write a 2-page statement about your background in public interest and why you would want to work in that area and possibly what you might want to do down the line. For letters of recommendation, we only require 1 letter of recommendation, but we will accept up to 2. And we prefer academic or professional letters. For students who are currently in undergrad or who have graduated within 2, I'd say, or 3 years, we're hoping to see at least 1 academic letter. And that academic letter could come from a professor or it could come from a TA. We know that a lot of students are going to very large undergraduate institutions where it might be harder for them to start a relationship with a professor. Titles are not important in this process to us. It's more the quality of the relationship. So if you really work with the TA and the TA knows your skill set, your work ethic, your work product, that would be the better person to ask to write the letter of recommendation, because we're trying to get a good sense of what type of student you would be if we brought you into Loyola Law School. So titles do not matter. If you've graduated from undergrad 3 years or more, we're more so going to be looking to professional letters. If you do have an academic letter, we would love to see it, but if you wanted to focus on professional letters at that point, that's more than fine. And LSAC, you can open your file with LSAC and they will keep a file on tab for you for 5 years. So if you're currently an undergrad and know you're going to take a gap year or, whatnot, I would encourage, maybe you have a relationship with a professor, have the professor send the letter to LSAC, and that letter will remain on file for 5 years until the time it is that you're planning to apply to law school. So, definitely utilize that opportunity. But academic or professional letters are best. Ones from family or friends or that type of thing, that's not so good. We want an unbiased letter. So with regard to resume and addenda, for resume, we recommend a resume. So it's not required, but highly recommended. And it should be 1 to 2 pages in length. If you are in undergrad when you're applying or have graduated within a year or two, I would say 1 letter is more, I'm sorry, 1 page is more than enough for the resume. But if you've been out of undergrad a longer period of time, then maybe 2 pages in length would be more appropriate. And it should just be standard resume format, starting with your education at the top and then moving into your experience, whether it be work experience, volunteer work, leadership opportunities in student organizations, awards, that type of thing. And then with regard to addenda, so an addendum is used to describe a weakness or a discrepancy in your file. So it's common for students to submit anywhere between 1 or 2, maybe even 3 addenda in their file, and that's appropriate. A lot of times students will ask, how many can I submit? I probably wouldn't go over 2 or 3. Like I said, you want your application to come off as clear and concise, but I do recommend them when you do have a discrepancy or a weakness in your file. So for example, maybe you are an all A and B student, but maybe one semester you have C's and D's and even an F. That would be time to submit an addendum. And maybe you'll title it GPA addendum or spring 2019 GPA addendum. And then it just needs to be a quick paragraph where you lay out and give the admissions committee context for why your grades were lower, why that discrepancy occurred. And so it's best to give the addendum and provide context so that you do not leave the admissions committee to guess as to what was going on at that time. You don't want the admissions committee to think, maybe this person just decided they were going to party or that type of thing. Maybe something was truly going on. Maybe there was a death in the family. Maybe you had to work more that semester. You want to give them context so that they can view your grades within context. And there's many other reasons why you might want to submit an addendum, but that was just an example of one. So it is now time for questions. So I'm going to stop my screen share. Great, and I am back to all of you. I can see your faces, good, good. So because we're a small group, I don't even think you have to drop a question in the chat. Just if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to go right ahead. Yes, please, Jacob.
So I was wondering, how important is it for us to get legal experience prior to applying? Because I found as an undergraduate, it's hard to get like legal internships and the sort.
Yes, so it's definitely not required. And I think what we are seeing right now, obviously currently with the pandemic and so forth, is it's even harder for undergraduate students to get those opportunities. So I think, like I said, it's absolutely not expected, not required by any means. We're not going to hold it against you if you did not have one of those opportunities. But I do think it's helpful just in that you do get a sense of, what the legal profession is going to be like. When we do see that type of thing on an application, we know, okay, the student is pretty serious and that they've gone to this legally related job for a couple of months. They see all of the, responsibility that law entails, and they still want to do it. So that type of thing is good. So we do like exposure, but not required by any means. And I've even heard of students visiting courts. I mean, obviously that's not an opportunity right now either. But maybe if the courts open back up, maybe even just popping into a courtroom for a day and just watching the cases on the docket, that kind of thing, that should be helpful too. But we know that your opportunities are very, very limited as of right now.
Thank you.
Sure. Other questions? Michelle.
Hi. So you talked about community and how it's a small community being on campus. I was thinking more of doing the part-time program just because of work. And what's the difference in the community and the part-time? Because it's never the same, right? It just
Right.
and I've tried both, right? Even in my undergrad. And so I don't want to feel like I've lost out on things going into the part-time program. But if you can give any insight into the community with the part-time program, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I would say our evening program, we bring in anywhere between 45 to 50 students. And so that cohort stays together the whole first year and a half or so to get through all of the doctrinal classes. And they are a more mature bunch. I'd say the average age on the full-time day program is about 24 or 25. Average age on part-time evening is about 29, 30. So a little more mature of a bunch. And then also many of them, like I said, the majority of them are working full-time, then coming to school at night. Some of them have families, and so forth. So maybe even a little bit more of a serious bunch, in that they have a lot of responsibility and all that kind of thing. But I have really heard that those students, they come together as a total family because they're all tackling so many different, things, and they really are like a strong cohort. And so we have tenured faculty that choose to only teach in the evening program because they really enjoy those students, more than anything. And I've heard that those professors, they'll give out their cell phone number, they'll put on office hours, late at night or on the weekend. They'll, do all kinds of things to really, really help students, access all of the help that they need. So I think it's a great bunch. For our student organizations, they meet once at 12 for the day students, and then their club meetings meet again at 5 p.m. for the evening students. So students will be able to take advantage of all of the, club-based things that are going on. And then our clinics and externships, evening students do take advantage of those things as well. So I would definitely say, that's still an opportunity. There's very few externships that will not allow students to evening students to be in those programs. And those are the ones that are like tied to the court where you have to be in court during the day. But outside of that, we even have quite a few faculty members who who have graduated from the evening program and so want their own evening students there as well. So I think Professor Grant, who's with the Project for the Innocent, he's a graduate of the evening program. Professor Hawthorne, who does more the Center for Juvenile Law and Policy, he's a graduate of our evening program. So they're actively looking for evening students all the time to do externships in their program. So I would definitely say, it's a strong cohort. You're going to get pretty much the same opportunities as the day program. I think every once in a while we'll hear, an evening student say, oh, we didn't get this or that. But I think that the administration is very on top of that and really likes to keep the programs equal as much as possible.
Kelly, I have a question.
Yes, please.
First, thank you for taking time out of your Saturday to hang out with all of us, and I love your background.
Oh, thank you so much. And absolutely, I'm glad you all came. So
It's
please
kind of a
fire away.
it's kind of a follow-on to Michelle's question, but it has to do with like recruiting, so like the job market. Obviously, things are a little bit different because of COVID right now, but just in general, what type of job prospects, or I don't want to say job prospects, but what type of recruiting events do we see on campus for LMU students, for law students? What kind of help do you get there? And is there a really strong alumni network that helps pull from graduates? And does that change for night students?
Great questions. So yes, definitely, we have a very robust career development office. And in that office, they're putting on all sorts of on-campus interview processes. Our OCI usually starts in early July, where students can start bidding. And these are for the major law firms, major international law firms. Probably about 50 of them or so come onto campus every fall. So usually around August is when students will start to do interviewing there. This past fall, we decided to move our fall OCI for the major law firms back to January. But I've spoken to students and they've said, we've still been doing virtual on-campus interviewing. So students have been able to still seal jobs even in this current pandemic, which is exciting. And we have two phases of OCI. So we have that first phase that's for the major international law firms. And then we also have a second phase that goes on during the fall semester, and that's more for the mid-size and smaller firms. And so we have smaller law firm receptions, we have public interest fairs on campus, and opportunities for students to meet employers and so forth as well. And then you were asking about alumni who come back to the campus. I would say, our alumni network that, in it being 19,000 strong, most of them are so active with our community and really do enjoy coming back to campus and, really imparting their knowledge upon our students. And they also enjoy hiring their own. So our career development office definitely puts on brown bag lunches. They're usually on Tuesdays at 12, where students can sign up to meet with a particular alum. And so it'll be an alum and maybe 20 students. And that alum at the lunch hour will talk about all of the various, channels that they went through to get to where they are today. So that is helpful too. And then for the evening program, same thing. All of those evening students are assigned to a career development office counselor. They are part of our evening students are part of our reportable data. We report, their bar passage rate as well, as well as their career placement rate as part of our overall score. So it's very important to us that they're getting jobs and passing the bar, just like our day program. And, I believe last time I checked for evening, we're ranked like 6th or 7th by US News and World Reports for our evening program. It's super strong, and our employers are really, out there looking for evening students as well. I think employers definitely like evening students because they know they don't have to teach them how to be a professional. They know that many of them are already working and are already professionals. And so it's really just that next step of becoming a lawyer. And so that group becomes very marketable in the legal field.
Thank you, Kelly. I kind of have a follow-up to that. Oh, sorry, I see Nicole raise her hand.
Okay. Okay. How about Nicole, and then we'll come back to you, Vernon. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks.
Oh,
Thank you, Vernon. Sorry. I just wanted to follow up on the part-time students for the externships. How would that work if we're working full-time? How does placement scheduling work for us?
Yes. So I know, particularly with like our Center for Juvenile Law and Policy, where it's Professor Hawthorne, he does, specific, maybe you're working on motions or working on memos where he's actually going to go to court. but having the evening student do all the writing and all the documentation for his court appearance, that type of thing. So I think that when they know they have an evening student, they want to give them as many opportunities as possible to work on the case. I mean, even clients, most clients are going to work during the day too. So maybe you have client meetings at night when you are available. You know, how I mentioned Monday through the evening program meets Monday through Thursday between about 6 and 10, but it's not 6 and 10 all the way through Monday through Thursday. There are going to be opportunities like maybe you're free 7 to 9 on Monday and Wednesday, or, you know, that type of thing. So maybe they put you on client interviews or client intake, or, you know, that type of thing, but you can do it at nighttime. So many of these externships, as well as clinics that do take evening students, they have such a need that they are just so happy to have you, and they can have you on doing things at nighttime that, you know, maybe their day students aren't doing.
Thank you.
Sure, Nicole. Back to Vernon.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, Nicole. The question is more about just like 1L opportunities. Wondering like if you have just any thoughts there about what kind of 1L opportunities are available in LA area in general. And if you get a lot of pull from those same top 50 or even mid-tier firms for like 1L fellowships.
So for 1L year, we don't encourage our students to do any sort of work or anything like that. We strong outside of the evening program. Evening students, they can work 40 hours a week and attend the evening program. But for our full-time day program, we strongly discourage students to work while attending the first year. The first year, it is, you know, definitely a learning curve. And so we want to make sure that everybody gets through the process, you know, unscathed and, you know, doing well, and that they've gotten that type of, you know, curriculum down. So during the first year, and like I said, there were even ABA rules set so that our career development office can't even talk to a first year until after October 15th. So first year, there's really not many opportunities because we just want you to study. But it's after the first year, like maybe you're asking the summer after the first year. Absolutely. The career development office would have been working with you from October 15th. I know many of our students do judicial externships over the summer after the first year. So they usually have to apply by December to these various judicial externships. So they're helping you with your resume, your cover letter, you know, getting letters of rec together, that type of thing. Some students do have, you know, actual jobs, but I see it more common, you know, maybe some in the summer, but then second year, third year, students are definitely, many students I talk to are working part-time and then doing the full-time day program as a second year student and a third year student, and they're in a legal placement. So, you know, we have things like Simplicity, which is an online bank where all of the employers write in to, you know, if they have different opportunities, and our students can apply to those opportunities. So there's a lot of opportunities. And I run our ambassador program in the admissions office. And as I talk to students, so many will tell me, oh yeah, I'm working and I'm going to school as a full-time student, and they're working in legal placements. So it's definitely career development that's setting them up with these opportunities.
Thank you. I like to work, as you can tell, so just trying to make sure I understand everything. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Nicole?
My question is more about the part-time program too. Sorry, we're all asking similar questions.
So great. I'm so happy. A lot of people are interested in our evening. Great.
So do a lot of the part-time students take advantage of the mentoring that you mentioned? That's what my question is about.
Yes. So every first year student gets that opportunity for the alumni mentorship, and absolutely, many of them take us up on that opportunity. And then, because like I was saying, those student groups, they meet at 12 for day and then 5 again for evening. All of those 1L mentorship programs would be mentioned to the evening students as well, and they take them up on those opportunities as well. We also have a day SBA and then a ESBA, evening SBA. So these are our governments. And so even the governments have like representatives within each of the evening sections and all that kind of thing. And they're putting on events for the evening students and, you know, various opportunities for the evening students to get together. So yeah, there's a ton of mentorship opportunities. Like because we're reporting all data for both programs together, it's very important that we see success in both our day and our evening program. And so everything we're providing today, we, you know, try to provide to the evening students as well.
Okay, because you mentioned earlier that there's some programs that evening students may not be able to participate in it. Is that, do you know what that is? Are they able to be on like law review or moot court or anything like that?
Yep, they can do law review, they can do moot court, they can do our burn trial advocacy team. It's more yes than no. I would say the no is more like, I'm trying to think, like maybe our William C. Hobbs Polls District Attorney Clinic, where it's a year-long clinic. The first semester, the student would take trial advocacy, and then the second semester, they would be going to court 3 days a week, and it would have to be during the day from the 8 to 5. And during that, they would be doing preliminary hearings. If they were really good, maybe the DA would ask them to do a small trial or that type of thing. Those opportunities they can't have done at night because obviously the courts aren't open at night. So things like that, they wouldn't be able to do. But all of our teams that you just mentioned, all of the, because our teams, they meet on the weekends.
Nice.
You know, and that type of thing. So absolutely, teams, law reviews, yep, all of that's available to evening students, and even, you know, leadership positions in the student organizations and clubs. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And Michelle?
Hi, I just had one question. I know you just mentioned that there would be a program where we would have to go into court, but if we were in the evening program, we wouldn't have the availability to do that. My question is more, are we able to switch up our availability? Like I have an employer that is pretty flexible with my hours. So then maybe if I know the semester I need to be available during the days for school, is it possible to be a part of that program?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, Michelle. So absolutely. If you have flexibility, then this is a non-issue for you. You would be able to take advantage of, you know, those ones that are really tied to the courts. Absolutely. And you know, so we see, you know, some of our students that are working full time, they really have like intense, really good jobs. And, you know, they keep with that job all 4 years. But others, maybe they have started in a particular job, and by their 3rd year, they have so much legal experience that they're going to jump to a different opportunity at that point. And then maybe they have more flexibility, you know, and can take advantage of some of these other things. Any other questions? These are great questions, so please keep firing away.
I don't know if you mentioned it. Was there a minimum GPA requirement?
Good question. So no minimum GPA requirement. Our medians are 160 for LSAT and 3.6 for GPA. No minimum requirement. I think our 25th percentile is 157 for LSAT, and I think it's about a 3.2 or a 3.3. And then 75th is 162 for LSAT and about a 3.7. So, you know, a good amount of our students are falling in that range, but we do not have any minimums. And if you feel like your GPA is a little bit on the lower side, if you can shoot as close to that 160 as possible, median for the LSAT, then, you know, that will kind of balance out the lower GPA, or vice versa. If you know, feel like, you know, your LSAT is lower, maybe your GPA can be a little bit higher to kind of balance it out.
I'm sorry, I
Nope.
found out about this today. So when is the deadline to apply? I know you had said, you told us, you know, if we did early
Early decision. So early
Right.
decision by December 1st, but then priority deadline for the full-time day program is February 1st. And the priority deadline for part-time evening is April 15th.
April 15th. Okay, got it. I thought that's when the decision would be made. And then so around, if we did the April 15th deadline, just to get everything in order, by when normally do we receive a decision?
It usually takes about 8 to 10 weeks from the time the application comes in and is complete in our system for a student to receive their decision. And also please note that for the full-time day program, February 1st is the priority deadline. We will take through the March LSAT. And then for part-time evening, April 15th is the priority deadline, and we will take through the June LSAT for entering class of fall 2021. But I can't stress enough, the earlier the better. So even when you hear priority deadline, I know for myself in particular, I'm very deadline driven. Like if I hear a deadline is there, like that's what I shoot for. But in a rolling admissions process for law school, that should not be the goal. Like by the deadline is when we would have seen the vast majority of our applications. So as early as possible as you can apply, that's even better because then all the seats will be available, all the scholarship money will be available. Those things tend to dwindle by the time we hit these priority deadlines. And with regard to evening, that's April 15th is still okay. That's really more so for full-time day. But yeah, April 15th, that's still okay on the part-time evening side.
Okay, just because, you know, I haven't taken the LSAT, right? Most of us, I think, haven't. And then when you told us how many you can take, right? 3 a year, 5,
Right.
7 lifetime, it's almost like I want to have enough time to prep for it so that I'm able to hit that score. But at the same time, want to make sure I'm not applying too late where I'm kind of just shooting myself in the foot at that point.
Yes, and see, that's really, really great, you know, that you're thinking it out that way. And I'm glad that you're taking that point of really prepare for the LSAT before you go in. So even if you're taking the March, or, you know, really even if you're taking the June, we still do accept, you know, students with the June. Now, if you're taking the June LSAT though, that's probably the harder month to actually get a scholarship and come in with the evening. Like I would think our scholarship funding would be pretty dry at that point. But if you're taking the March and applying for April 15th, you know, hopefully we'll still have funding at that point for evening in particular.
And scholarship funding, is that just GPA based or is it a number of different scholarships?
Good question. So it's based on LSAT and GPA or GRE. And then we also take leadership into account as well. So these are merit-based scholarships. So those are the only things the scholarship committee is looking at. And basically after an application is admitted into the law school, then it goes straight to the scholarship committee, and they're mainly looking at LSAT, GRE, undergraduate GPA, and then also taking leadership into account. Any other questions? Like I said, you guys have great questions. Saturday morning, you all came ready to go. No other questions? Well, I'm supposed to encourage you all if you still wanted to continue. I know that there's more programming at 12. So I will drop the link back to this event in the chat so that if you wanted to continue.
The 12 o'clock, the special interest sessions?
Yes, I think, yes. So.
Thank you for your time. And
oh, you are so welcome, Jacob. So everybody sees my name right there, Kelly Greer. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to email me at kelly.greer@lls, S as in school, .edu. and I would gladly follow up with you. We do virtual office hours, like drop-in office hours every week. We also do one-on-one appointments every week. If you just go to our website and then to the prospective student tab, there's a contact page where we list all of our one-on-one appointments. We also have some virtual appointment events coming up. We have our virtual open house on Saturday, November 14th, and a virtual application workshop coming up in December, where we look at previous applications that we've received and discuss the strengths and weaknesses of those, so that as you move forward, you can think best about how to submit your application. So please feel free to go to our website and sign up for any of those events or make an additional appointment with us. We are more than happy to meet with you and glad that you all came today. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good, thank you, Kelly. Kelly, I
Thank
have
you, Kelly.
one last question. Sorry.
Please.
I know you talked about the length of addendum, the length of the resume. Did you mention the length of the personal statement?
I probably didn't. Good question. So it should be 2 to 3 pages, double spaced, and 12-point font is good. Any other last minute questions? Okay, well, thank you so much again. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday, and I hope to see your applications in the near future.
Okay.
Okay.
And accept them, right, Kelly?
That's right. That's right. Okay.
Thank
Have
you.
a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.